My name's Phil Hercombe. I'm the European Projects Manager at Knight Frank, which means I'm responsible for the integration of all our various business units around Europe and Middle East. But I've grown into that role since being responsible for the implementation of SupportWorks in the business 3 or 4 years ago.
Now that we've moved away from our Citrix environment, so it's local installations of software, we are getting inundated with more calls than we previously had. What the service desk do very well is trend analysis those calls and link them to problems and then pass the problems on to the appropriate teams. Whereas in the past we could have had 10 or 15 incidents just going to different analysts, and it was a bit like headless chickens. With SupportWorks, it's giving us a basis for prioritising and having a process driven where we can actually link all the incidents to one call and then pass that forward to the actual team to fix.
We were very keen to adopt a self-service module of some description. Our initial goal was to try and reduce the number of follow-up calls to our service desk where people were ringing to find out the status of issues they'd logged with us. So we went out to the market and selected from, I think we looked at about 10 different products and ended up selecting the SupportWorks.
I think the greatest success has been the rollout of the Windows 7 and the 2010 joint venture. Obviously headcount was quite on the list of concerns. We had to roll out the environment, and also some of the team from the service desk went out on the rollout as part of getting the experience for supporting for future calls. That leaving the service desk quite short actually on the actual desk. But with SupportWorks it was more manageable to identify those calls coming in and assigning them to the appropriate teams.
Over the last 12 to 18 months we have had to deal with a number of reasonably significant changes, probably the most significant of which has been the fact that we've completely changed our desktop architecture. Starting in September of last year, we started ripping that environment out and moving back to a local installations of pretty much everything. So Windows 7, moving to Office 2010 at the same time, and also introducing a new email archiving system, which has proven to be one of the biggest hurdles for our users to overcome. Additionally, we've had to cope with some of the fairly inevitable things that almost all businesses will do at the moment. The uncertain economic times, we can't just spend money willy-nilly. We're having to justify our existence at every turn. The business is demanding more from the same amount of resources. And we have just completed an external consultancy exercise where we've had an expert in service desks come in, review our processes, review our support structures.
I think that our users are a nice bunch anyway. I think the appreciation is there when they see we're doing something positive and trying to help and giving them updates on the intranet, advising when we've got an outage, and we'll get back to them in an hour with an update of what's actually happening. We do get that appreciation from the users.
The advantage to us of using SupportWorks is that about 3 years ago we started focusing on getting people to log issues through self-service, and we've been, it turns out, very successful doing that, where we consistently get 75 to 80% of all our tickets raised through self-service, which depressurises the service desk. And it means they can deal with things on the basis of a true priority rather than just whoever happens to be next in line through the phone system, which means we can then make big changes without having to gear up for additional resource being required to handle the inevitable increase in call volume that comes through.
Being flexible and listening to the team and putting their ideas as well as your own together, that brings you all forward together, and that way you grow together. So by giving a good team spirit, by just trying to include everyone on any kind of changes.
The focus on self-service certainly paid off in that regard, that we were able to actually take people out of the service desk to help with the implementation of the new environment, whilst at the same time coping with an increase in the number of calls.
Our aims for the future is obviously to look at more the way the user interacts with us, and not just be a number from a call reference. Knowing the priority of their call, if it's important, ringing them up to make sure it's got to be done by a given time and not just by an SLA of 2 hours. And so it's kind of having that appreciation for what the user's trying to achieve.
We've been able to maintain our headcount as our business has increased its headcount back from 2-3 years ago, when, again, in common with a lot of people, we probably saw some some tough times. Our headcount has rebounded. At the same time, the service desk has taken on responsibility for supporting additional business units so that we look after not just our UK business, but our business in Ireland, our offices in Munich and one of the ones in Frankfurt, the Middle East, where we've opened in Bahrain, Abu Dhabi and Dubai in the last few years. And starting in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be the first port of call for support issues from our Paris office. And so that combined has brought in a number of language challenges and B, an additional number of users without, again, us having to go to recourse of we need to increase the service desk headcount.
Tips that I would give to other service desk managers would be to listen to what your user base is saying, having a survey, getting responses from that and listening to what they actually want to get out of the system as well. It's no good having it just one way from an IT perspective. Listen to your team. Make sure your team are motivated to do the job. The way we motivate them is by moving them from position to position. So we'll have them to go out to sites, we'll have them swap with other members of the team, we'll have them go off to desk visits, we'll get them involved with the knowledge base.
It's very important to have a strong service desk for us to support our users. There's a clear direction from our IT director that we employ people in the department whose primary task is to deliver new benefits to the firm. We don't want their time taken up fixing problems. We want the service desk to do that. They have the customer service skills to be able to deal with the users face to face or down the telephone more competently than many of their colleagues. They have the range of knowledge about the environment that means they can see the bigger picture. The
SupportWorks system is a very powerful tool for us. I think definitely it has kept us more efficient than what we used to be. So from our point of view, we've got a lot more time to actually focus on a call. I think Phil's been very important to the way that the system's been implemented. Phil, coming from a service desk role previously, he understands the values of what we're trying to get over to the users, and from the business side he understands what the users want out of the system as well, where he's brought SupportWorks up to date for us.
I think top tips if people are looking to try and undergo an improvement process in their service desk is take the time to understand your processes thoroughly and understand what your business wants out of them. Obviously talk to your users. There's no point in planning these things in a vacuum. You need to make sure that you're meeting your business requirements. And I think don't lose track of who it is ultimately you're trying to benefit, that these things shouldn't be done for the benefit of IT, they should be done for the benefit of your end users and your customers.